So I'd like to welcome Voltaire Sterling, David Otunga, and David Dorfman. Voltaire is going to go first to talk about his story. The only thing I really want to say, beyond the beautiful introductions we already got, is that the stories they have are actually of broader interest to people other than people who just want to succeed in Hollywood. If you're welcome to do that too, of course. But they have all put together careers that involve an enormous amount of mobility, the kind of future careers that I think lots of people graduating from law school are looking for, whether that involves the entertainment industry or not. So I think their lessons will be broadly valuable. Thank you. So Voltaire?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Professor Tushnet. First of all, I want to say this weekend so far has been phenomenal. It's so exciting to be back at Harvard Law School, a place where I have such fond memories. I just want to say thank you to a few people, specifically Dean John Manning, former Dean Martha Minow, Professor Tushnet, Professor Lazarus, Karen Chance-Mercurius, who works in the Alumni Relations Department, who's a phenomenal help and just keeps me connected to the school. Paula Garvin, who I saw this weekend, reconnected with, and has been super helpful while I've been in town, even giving me rides to and from the hotel. And then I want to thank especially my wife, Megan Garland Sterling. She'll see this video. She's a phenomenal woman. She's 7 months pregnant, and we have a 5-year-old son, so she took on more this weekend with him. And it's no small feat to be a working parent, so I really appreciate all that she's doing to care for our children while I'm here. Our son, Jude August, and our baby, who we affectionately call Sparkle while she's in utero. It's not her real name, but while she's in utero, because she moves around a lot, we call her Sparkle. Anyway, so I just, wanted to give a bit more information about my background and tell you a bit about my story. So I'm from the south side of Chicago, which I feel is very relevant in the sense that as a storyteller, we have tremendous responsibilities, and my storytelling sensibilities were in large part shaped by my upbringing in a very diverse community on the south side of Chicago called Hyde Park. And I went from there to Morehouse College in Atlanta, and then of course came to Harvard Law School, where I had an amazing experience as well. But my earliest beginnings in Chicago, just participating in school plays and church plays, acting in a community, really helped to shape the creative sensibilities that I had and continue to inform my life and work today, and just the sense of social justice that I have even. Well, here at HLS, I was very involved in a number of different things on campus. So what I wanted to do always was make sure that I was remaining true to who I am and my interests. So I initially started and even came to law school because I've always loved helping people. I grew up in the church in Chicago, and one of the things that was instilled in me and in my family from a very early age, I have 2 siblings, our parents always taught us that for unto whomsoever much is given, much is also required. So when I was here on campus, I was involved, in some activities that had to do with social justice, like the Prison Legal Assistance Project, PLAP, and also ended up being class marshal, as you heard in sort of the introductions. And so as a class marshal, we had opportunities, to do things, to do events on campus. We had speakers who would come. One of the highlights of my HLS experience was when I had an opportunity to show a movie on a Saturday. It was an HBO film called Lackawanna Blues. It was about this really rich, diverse community in upstate New York, Lackawanna, New York. And on a Saturday, we had hundreds of people from all over the Harvard campuses who came to watch this black film. And it was amazing. We had a great talk-back discussion. I had cross-registered even when I was in law school at the college, and I had taken a film class with Elvis Mitchell, who was at the time a film critic at the New York Times. So he moderated the discussion. One of our alumni, who was here last night, Hill Harper, is one of the stars of the film. So Hill came, and he spoke about his story, and we had a great discussion. But it was awesome. It was like a cultural experience, and really kind of, to me, underscored, what you hear here often about HLS, and that you can do anything. And so it was something that at the time the dean was, now Justice Kagan, Dean Elena Kagan, was very supportive. She came and did an introduction at the event. And it just underscored the notion that, the school is very supportive of people and whatever they want to do. I also, when I left here, because I had initially come because I thought I wanted to help people and become an entertainment lawyer, I practiced. But I was unfulfilled. I did corporate law. I was on the path of becoming an entertainment lawyer, but really just was unhappy on a day-to-day basis. I was in a beautiful office building, but felt that a part of my spirit was dying. So the first move that I made was I jumped into working as an assistant to Jada Pinkett Smith's creative and producing partner at Overbrook Entertainment, and it gave me a really great understanding of how the industry worked from a business standpoint. It's show business, so it's not just about art and sort of what we like as artists, but also just thinking about the business mindset and how that translates into something that could be financially lucrative. So I did that, and then decided I was going to take an even riskier jump. And at the time, I wasn't married and didn't have a family, so I could do this. I jumped into an acting class. I left that company, jumped into an acting class because I'd always wanted to pursue acting professionally. I'd always been a storyteller, and I said, I'm young. I'm gonna take a chance on me. And after some prayer and contemplation at the beach, which is where I feel closest to God, I jumped into an acting class. And about a month into the class, the teacher mentioned that Denzel Washington was doing this story about a historically black college that debates against Harvard. And I was like, wait a second, I went to Morehouse College, historically black college, I went to Harvard Law School. I want to find out more about this. So I did a ton of research, and this is one of the ways that actually the law has been really helpful, because the skills that I attained here at HLS in terms of like researching and writing came in handy in a great way as I was attempting to find out more about this project, but also to finagle my way into it. So I had a friend who at the time was working at the Weinstein Company, the company that produced the film. He slipped me the script, and I read the script 6 times before I even had an audition for the film. And I went on in this all-out affront. At the time, I didn't have an agent or a manager to just get noticed. So I thought that it would have to come from the top down, because Hollywood can be a very closed-door place. And ultimately was able to get Denzel Washington to notice me, and he invited me to audition. I was cast in the film, and it was just amazing. You saw a clip of it, I think, in the introduction. It was an amazing opportunity, not just because it was great for me in the sense that I've always loved acting and performing and storytelling, but also because the story is about one of the pioneers of the civil rights movement, James Farmer Jr. And so you get to see him as a young college student and how his sense of social justice was cultivated. And he ultimately was someone who inspired Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other leaders of the civil rights movement. So it was just a great film to be a part of. It also opened doors for me. So because I had this great educational background from having gone to Morehouse and Harvard Law School, I was able to do public speaking around the country to young people, talking about debate as an alternative to societal ills like gangbanging and selling drugs and other things that are just not the best things to be involved with when you're young. And I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention that Harvard was one of the ways that I even got the role. So in two respects. So on the one hand, in preparing for the audition, once I actually was invited to audition, I had never auditioned for a feature film. So I reached to my alumni network. There's a gentleman named Doug McHenry, who is an alumnus of the class, I think of the 75. He was here in the 70s. Tremendous help in my career. So I reached out to Doug. He's a film producer and director. He directed Jason's Lyric and has done a number of different things on the production side. And I said, hey, Doug, he actually knows Denzel too. So I said, I got this audition. I want to do really well. What is your best advice? He said, well, Voltaire, this role that you have in the film is probably one that Denzel hasn't had time to think much about because he's directing the film. So what you should do is you should create a character. You should tell him who this character is, and then you live up to that expectation that you create for this role. So I did that. I created this character. His name was Cleophilus Wilson III, and some very kind of crazy name, but like this person who I felt in the 1930s, even though it was during the Great Depression and people of color in many respects were marginalized in the country, I knew that historically black colleges existed, and so he could be from a line of people who had been actually for generations educated and who were well off. And so I created this very kind of conceited guy, and then I did the audition, and I learned after landing the role that Denzel actually showed that audition to his actors who were on his team that he coached, because he directed and he also starred in the film. He coached a team of debaters to get them to prepare for the scene that we shot, so to make it very contentious and almost like a real debate. So that was a really cool kind of thing to learn. But another way that the Alumni Network has helped is, I mentioned Hill. I hadn't done an audition tape before, but he gave me some really good advice. He said, well, make sure they can hear you, so rent some sound equipment. And it's kind of a very technical thing, and maybe it seems like not that important, but it's immensely important, because if a casting director can't hear you, then they can't actually know what your presentation is and even hire you for the show or for the film. So just kind of give those two examples. And then there's a woman who's on campus right now, Deborah Martin Chase. She's opened some doors in terms of reaching out to casting directors who are friends of hers to meet with me and think about potentially casting me when they have opportunities that make sense. So the HLS network has been phenomenal, and kind of a couple of the ways that the law and acting have in my own life and career had some correlation. I'm just spend a couple of more moments. I don't want to take too much time because the gentlemen also want to share their stories. But one of the things that I'm doing now is I've experienced in life a lot of great joy and pleasant experiences, but also have had some pain. I mean, as you grow through life, life is hard and these things grow you up. So Meryl Streep has this quote. She says, take your broken heart and turn it into art. And so in this next stage of my career, I'm looking forward to expanding more on the writing that I've done. I've written a screenplay called Eagles. That's a love story set to the 2008 presidential campaign. And it's all about how young people from different circumstances at that time, came together and either were conservative or liberal, and maybe didn't even consider themselves that, but got excited about the political process. It's not a political film; it's a love story, and would send it to anyone who wants to read it. So if you want, I'll send it. But I want to delve more into that and sort of taking the experiences I've had and putting that into writing and creating additional opportunities in that way. My mom has dementia, and so it's something that I've really been struggling with. But Meryl Streep's kind of point to me is often in my mind about taking your broken heart and turning it into art, because I think we can all do that in ways that will probably bless others. And then the last thing I want to say is, as I depart, I really want to just commend again everyone who was a part of this weekend. I can't tell you how phenomenal it is to come back to HLS, a place where, as someone who was interested in the arts, I had to sort of find my own way and figure out what that meant in terms of a career. I think the current students have, tremendous opportunity that has been created with this weekend to network with people who are, television producers, directors, actors, writers, people who are entertainment lawyers and artists. And if you have that interest, I encourage you as a student even, because you're not a threat to anyone, to reach out to alumni. And I think that any of us would be more than happy to give you our contact information, to stay in touch, and just want to commend everyone from the school. And I just hope that this continues in many ways, in the sense that there are more events like this, but then also as it translates into like what functionally even students and alumni might need. Like, so one of the things that I struggle with is I haven't been able to ever really officially leave the law because I still need to make money. So I've been doing contract attorney work, which is something that I hate, but I have to do it because I have to make ends meet. If there were a way that the school could even figure out, how to create a pipeline or pathway for people who are interested in arts careers. I mean, there's great opportunities in public interest in other ways, but even to make this more of a formal thing. And I think this weekend could potentially be the start of something like that. So thanks so much. God bless. And thanks for being here.
Right. Thank you so much. And as a former debater, I want to say thank you in particular for talking about how good debate can be for people. David, will you? David Otunga.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a little humid. Hold on a second. All right. It's a little humid. Figured it'd be a little more comfortable. Okay. My name is David Otunga, HLS class of 2006. I have probably one of the most unique career paths of any HLS graduate. Following graduation, I took a job at Sidley Austin, Chicago, huge firm. Love the place. Martha Minnow's dad worked there. Love Martha Minnow, by the way. Great firm. I loved the job. Money was great, respect, esteem. But ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be an entertainer. And I know when you see me here now, I didn't always look like this. I didn't always have muscles. I wasn't always nicely dressed and handsome, if I do say so myself. You gotta love yourself. Anyway, I was a chubby kid, and I grew up in the Midwest in Elgin, a northwest suburb of Chicago, and I used to get picked on a lot, and I was really shy and introverted, but I had really, really big dreams. Like, I wanted to be a movie star and a professional wrestler. I grew up in the 80s, and I idolized Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, all their movies, and Hulk Hogan and The Ultimate Warrior. Now, there's a consistent theme here. All of these guys had really big muscles, and I was like, that's what I want. I want to do both of those things. But my mom told me, well, David, most people don't make it in entertainment, so you need to have a good fallback career. And I said, okay, all right. I was never really interested in school. I always wanted to be outside with my friends or, playing athletics, but school was never really very difficult for me. You all right, Dave?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, my man. So anyway, I was always just looking for my big break and, taking acting classes, doing plays, you name it. Next thing I know, I'm in the University of Illinois, and I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So I enrolled as a psych major, and I was pre-med, and my dad really wanted me to go to medical school. I was like, yeah, that'll be cool, but I was thinking I would get my big break before that. Didn't happen, so ended up taking the MCAT, getting into medical school, but then I panicked because I was like, I don't want to do this. I got the opportunity to go manage a cognitive neuroscience lab at Columbia University at 22. To me, I was like, well, that's in New York. There's Broadway there. I'll definitely get my big break. Oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So I took it, and my dad was so proud. He was like, oh, my son is managing this cognitive, I can't even say it, neuroscience lab. It's so important, and all these experiments they do. Meanwhile, I'm rushing here and there, going on every audition you can think of. During this time, I used to talk to my dad every day. We were really, really close. And my father grew up in Kenya, and he was a goat herder. And he actually came over to the United States in the 60s in a program that was set up by President Kennedy. And there's another notable alumni from Illinois whose father came over in the same program, Barack Obama. Anyway, very interesting parallels there. But my dad would tell me that he'd always wanted to be a lawyer, but he didn't think he was smart enough, so he didn't pursue that. And that was crazy to me because his self-perception had gotten to the point where he didn't think he was smart. My dad had his PhD, 2 different master's degrees in different disciplines, and a certificate of advanced studies, which I didn't even know what it was. But apparently it's beyond a master's degree and between a PhD. So he was one of the smartest people I know. I was like, if he didn't think he was smart enough to be a lawyer, I don't know what to say because I know a lot of dumb lawyers. So during this time, my buddy was studying for the LSAT, and it was about 3 weeks away. And I said, hey, wonder what, maybe I'd like to go to law school. I called him up. His name was Dave, too. I was like, Dave, when's the LSAT? And he's like, oh, man, it's 3 weeks away. I said, I think I'm going to take it. And he's like, what, the next one? I said, no, this one. No, bro. I've been studying for 6 months, man. I'm stressed out. He's like, don't do it. You mess it up. Take it again. They're going to average your scores. It's not a good idea. Wait, take the next one. But I was like, well, I mean, this is just something I kind of feel right now, so I'm going to do it. So I showed up, had to pay all these late fees and stuff, but they let me take it. Took it, and I did way better than I expected. And so I said, whoa, I didn't plan on that. And my dad was really excited. You're just going to apply to all the top 10 schools everywhere? And he told me about Harvard. And he was growing up in Kenya as a boy. Harvard was like a mythical place that didn't really exist, like where the smartest people in the world were. So, for example, if somebody said something smart, did something really smart, like we'd say, oh, who you think you're Einstein? They say, where do you think you're from, Harvard? But it's not like a real place you ever thought you would go. So I applied just the top 10 schools, and meanwhile, I'm still going on auditions and stuff. My dad would call me every day on my lunch break. Hey, have you heard back yet? Did you get into any schools? Have you heard from anybody? I'm like, Dad, it's been 2 weeks. It takes longer than that. Then one day, I got a call, and my dad had passed away. He had a sudden heart attack and was gone that quick. And I was only 22 years old. I have 2 older sisters, and I was living far away from my family, and it just was the biggest shock and just turned our lives upside down. So I go home and trying to make arrangements. I'm trying to figure out what do I do next because now I need to be here for my family so I can forget about pursuing my dreams of acting and whatnot. Maybe I should go to law school. I mean, hopefully I'll get in somewhere around Chicago. And 2 weeks to the day he passed away, I got my acceptance to Harvard Law School. And that sticks out to me as a very significant moment in my life. It was bittersweet because of what it meant to my dad, it is one of my proudest achievements. But he just missed it. You know what I mean? That's one of those things like, I just wish I could have seen the smile on his face, gotten that hug. Like, if he won the lottery, of course, people would be over the moon. He would not have been as excited as he would have been to know that his son got into Harvard Law School. But I'm sure he knows that. So anyway, now I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, I didn't intend to make it this far. I didn't intend for any of this to happen. And I was like, I guess I should go. My mom's like, David, you're not going to turn down Harvard Law School. You better go. And I did. And I told myself I was going to go because I was going to honor my dad. honor his legacy. And I did. And I went, and it is one of the best decisions I ever made. And I have a lot of awards and trophies in my basement. The best one of all, the most special one, is my Harvard Law degree. I have that up above everything. It's over my championship belts. It's over acting trophies. It's higher up in the room than the Academy Award and the Grammys are. Those aren't mine, but trophy room is pretty sick. So anyway, after graduation, you know, I kind of don't really have things figured out. And all these firms are just like beating down your door. Hey, come here, we'll pay you this, we'll pay you that. I'm like, you're gonna pay me what? For real? Okay. So I was like, I'm gonna go to the best firm in Chicago. I did that. And in the first 6 months, we got 3 raises for doing nothing. Just because they wanted to be competitive. I was like, this is just, I'm talking about like $10,000 raises minimum. They're giving away money. This is unbelievable. So now I'm in the city, in Chicago, big time lawyer. This is great, plenty of money, but I still wasn't living my dream, my passion. I still wanted to be an entertainer. And I wanted to be an actor, a professional wrestler. But I had my life pretty well set out. I could have stayed right there. I had a more than comfortable living, great job, security, but I wanted to do more. Ooh, this was a tough one. I made the biggest decision of my life, and I went into my senior partner's office, and I said, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Sure. So, well, you know, I just wanted to tell you, thank you very much for this opportunity and everything here. And I've learned a lot. It's been great, but I'm leaving. And he said, you're leaving? I said, yes. Where are you going? What do you mean? Another firm? No, I'm leaving. This is pretty unusual, David. You know, most people don't usually leave after, you know, a year or so. What are you going to do? I took a minute. I smiled and I said, I'm going to become a movie star and a professional wrestler. He looked at me in silence and then laughed. I said, okay, all right. Yeah, I guess it does sound pretty crazy. It's not the usual thing you hear. But when I did that, that was the moment where I jumped. Steve Harvey talks about that all the time. This moment where you have to jump. It's interesting because now I've been Steve Harvey's personal fitness guru on his TV show for the past 2 years. And he's a guy that I used to, you know, I read his books and whatnot, and it's pretty cool to come full circle in that respect. Anyway, so I left the firm. I didn't have anything set up. I didn't know where I was going to go. All of a sudden, these giant paychecks aren't coming in. I don't know how I'm going to be booked as an actor or become a professional wrestler. How do you do that? And it was just on blind faith and believing. And, you know, just the way the universe works, the power of intention and synchronicity. I got a call. Somebody asked me if I wanted to do, I don't know, some wrestling show with Hulk Hogan. And I said, sure, I'll take it. They called me the next day. They said, hey, I'm really sorry, but the position was filled. I was crushed. I was like, this was going to be my chance. But then he says, hey, have you ever thought about trying out for WWE? And I said, yeah, you know, that's what I want to do. He's like, well, I can get you an audition. I was like, it's great, but wait. I don't have any wrestling experience. I didn't even wrestle in high school. I played basketball. And he's like, don't worry about it. And he's like, with your look, your physique, the fact that you went to Harvard Law School, gave that up, they're going to be interested. You have such a unique story. And I said, really? Sure enough, they called me in, met me, and they're like, there's just something about you. You have it. We're going to sign you. Signed me to a developmental contract, and in 13 months, I was on TV. Raw, SmackDown, WrestleMania, you name it, and never looked back. And the interesting thing about that is, like, people always ask me, why did you go to Harvard Law School and, invest all this time just to give that up for, you know, entertainment, for movies and wrestling? Well, I didn't. And to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the movies. I wouldn't have the wrestling had I not gone to Harvard Law School. Now, I don't know how long I've talked. Honestly, I didn't know they were going to give us time to talk. So I was like, you're going to give me time to talk? I could take up the whole hour and then some. Try to curtail this. But I just want to tell you real quick, like, what I'm doing today. So, movies. Just wrapped a huge film with Tyler Perry, the new Medea movie. Not Boo 2, but the bigger one that comes out next summer. 2 other movies coming up. WWE, I have to go there for No Mercy next week. I have 2 different shows I'm producing using my legal background, which is really cool. And just recently, I had some free time, and I said, you know, I want to give back. And I picked up 2 clients to represent, just because I just wanted to do something. And it was a commercial property dispute, my first time ever handling that. I was like, I can figure this out. It was awesome. And a personal injury case. I didn't like the way a certain guy was being handled and treated, and so I was like, you know what, I can step in here and help you out. And I'm a motivational speaker, which is something that is, I don't know, if you look back to me when I was a kid, the last thing you think I'd be doing is standing up in front of people just talking like this today with no notes, just making this up. Improv? What? Oh, I didn't mention that either, too. I was a stand-up comedian. Proud of that, because I don't think I'm funny at all. But my agent was like, hey, you're really funny. You should go take this comedy class. And I was like, okay. The only class they had was stand-up comedy. So then he's like, hey, yeah, take that. I was like, no. So you have to write jokes, and then you have to go out and perform it. And we had like a 5-minute set. I don't know if you know this. 5 minutes is an eternity, because most comics start out with 3 minutes. I had 5 minutes I had to fill. But once I started doing it, I loved it. And what I realized is I'm not afraid for people to boo me. You know why? Being a professional wrestler, I was always the bad guy. I try to get you to boo me. I don't care if I fail. But anyway, I did so good in my final exam for just 5 minutes, people started booking me. Like, I did the Laugh Factory, the Improv. It was crazy. And I finally had to turn it down. I was like, no, I'm not going to be a comedian. This was just something I did. But it was cool. Just cool to be able to know that I could do that. And I value that, that art. I have immense respect for it. All right, I know I've talked too much. I know I've gone way over. Dave, wake up, buddy. Your turn, man. Sorry. Thanks, guys.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for, first of all, giving the partner a story that I'm sure he tells at dinner parties too, about the one who got away. And thank you for taking off your jacket.
You're very welcome. I made it otherwise.
David.
Well, it's such an honor to be here today, and thank you, Professor, for those way too kind words. As you can see, actors have a long and storied tradition of involvement in the law. I mean, I'm sure these 2 guys have fond memories of those famous cases from 1L, Robert Blake's murder trial, Winona Ryder's shoplifting case. I mean, literally, I think it's a high unemployment rate among lawyers, but actors single-handedly are responsible for I don't know what percentage of the jobs out there. Child stars, though, wow. We are in a class of our own. I mean, I'm talking DUIs, reckless driving, drug charges, underage who knows what. I mean, at this rate, I would not be surprised if half the lawyers in Los Angeles owe us their jobs. Sound like a good estimate? Yeah. Now, I joke about this, but it truly is not funny. Something about child stardom leaves so many child stars going down this dangerous path. I mean, it just does. And I personally think one of the reasons why is they don't hear the word no enough. I mean, there's a sense of invincibility comes with that's not healthy. It's a real shame. But really surprise people, given that context. It surprises them to learn that I started college at just age 13, graduated as a valedictorian with a 4.0 GPA from UCLA, and went on to join this Harvard Law School community at just 18 years old. I mean, like any good child actor, I'd like to think part of this is due to because I didn't take no for an answer. I channeled that in a positive direction. You know, every stereotype, every episode of E! True Hollywood Story, right? I've been determined, and I am determined, to prove wrong. Well, you know, as I reflect back on all this, it's crazy. I have some notes here, but I'm not really going to follow them. I think, actually, I'm going to tell you where it really gets crazy. You know, as I've become a lawyer, because I'm actually practicing as a lawyer now, I keep drawing on my background as an actor, time and time again. I'm going back to these experiences, and I'm finding them to be invaluable. If you'll indulge me, and on second thought, I guess you guys don't really have a choice because you're stuck here, but I'm going to take you back down memory lane to my very first week of 1L. Do we have Professor Rubenstein here? No? All right, well, most of us know the drill. I'm hearing the laughs. Mr. Dorfman, this is an Oregon case. These are your people. Facts of the case. It's the first day, guys. I have no idea, but I did my best impression of someone who knew what they were talking about, and judging by his approving nod, apparently he was fooled. You know, that is not an easy task. And it was also that moment I knew beyond any and all reasonable doubt. See, I got the law thing there. Acting was going to prove an invaluable skill in law school. Or how could I forget Professor Zittrain's or Professor Baconar's seminars? I mean, there I am, right there in Hauser, by the way. Some 18-year-old kid talking about Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act in front of our special guest, FBI Director Bob Mueller. Yeah, you guys thought those clips of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was scary. Picture that. On a more serious note, though, acting and lawyering, they really do share so much in common. I mean, one of the first things you guys, I see some new 1Ls here, you're going to learn in law, is that it's all about the details. When a client is paying your firm as much for an hour of your time as it probably costs for a round-trip ticket to Hawaii, think about that. Every I needs to be dotted and every T needs to be crossed. No exceptions. Thing about the law, it doesn't accept anything less than perfection. And I hate to break it to you guys, neither do partners. Yeah, it's a tough break out there. But acting also is valuable in a whole host of other ways as well. You know, a lot of people know I did this series of horror films and comedies. A valuable task. I'm sure I have more things to say here somewhere. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. On a more basic level, though, I'd like you to all think about this. When a 15-year-old kid, like, doesn't do their homework, right? What happens? They get a B, right? Sorry, Mom, so what? But when a 15-year-old actor doesn't memorize their lines for a scene they're shooting tomorrow, well, production grinds to a halt, and the night sky fills with the sound of agents running around with their heads cut off and screaming producers. It's not a pretty sight. And that's a lot of responsibility for a kid. And take it from me, it made getting my reading done in 1L lightweight. Or, you know, actually one of the shows I was a series regular on, first ones, I was in 3rd grade, was called Family Law. And surprise, surprise, it was about the law. Very helpful, by the way. And yeah, I felt this enormous amount of responsibility on my shoulders. I mean, here I am, so young, but every hour I'm there on set is costing Sony tens of thousands of dollars. And more importantly, the jobs of literally hundreds of people, caterers, lighting grips, drivers, cameramen, they depend on us giving great performances so we get great reviews and ratings and ultimately get renewed. believe me, that's a lot of pressure, and it makes the Ames competition seems like nothing. All right. So I guess I've talked about some of the horror film stuff. Ring 2, Texas Chainsaw, Reach, Panic, probably best known for that. But I also have a strong background in professional comedy. I had this incredible opportunity to star in Drillbit Taylor, for instance, alongside Owen Wilson, which was produced by the one, the only Judd Apatow. Now, as all the entertainment people here today know, he is the definition, Judd Apatow, of a creative genius. And his writing team, also obviously second to none. But something very interesting about the way he shoots is that after every scene, after we do takes, we always do an improv version. Yes, bringing it back to the improv comedy. It's a common theme here today, but it really is such a great experience. But think about this. There I am. You got Owen Wilson, Ian Roberts. These people are literally the Supreme Court justices of comedy. I mean, think Scalia in RGB. And there I am needing to match their jokes one for one. You guys don't know what it is to think on your feet until you've had to do improv comedy. And truly, truly, it is an invaluable experience because much like comedians, lawyers need to be able to think on their feet. You know, when opposing party is coming after you with pointed question after pointed question, or during my time working at the Senate, when the opposing party is coming after you, literally party, with pointed question after, you know, boom, boom, boom. You got to be able to just go in there and give it the best argument you got. There isn't the time for Westlaw research, nuanced analysis, as valuable as that may be. You just need to be able to give it the best you got right then and there. So, yeah, I think comedy is invaluable for the law. I also recognize a lot of you, some of you are eating this speech up. I see you guys laughing. Great. Other half of you, not so much. I'm looking at that guy rolling his eyes. Well, you know what? Brace yourself, because this speech is about to get so much worse. You don't even know. So I've done the comedy comparison. Now it's time for the full-blown how starring in horror films helps you in law school comparison. It's seriously, though. It is, one of the greatest legal job opportunities I had was getting to write the first motion picture tax credits for the entire country of the Philippines. And so there I am, sitting at the negotiating table. We're going line by line, point by point, through this massive bill. And, end of the day, long day of negotiating, the other side comes up and says to me, David, you have a truly great poker face. Well, after you've had to watch your sister being drowned by a ghost 30 takes in a row and keep a straight face, that is literally your job, to keep a straight face. I think I can manage a poker face. Yeah? So, finally, I'd like to say, I think one underappreciated aspect of being an actor is the need to empathize and put yourself in the shoes of other people. I've played characters from across the spectrum of society, literally. One project, I was the son of a hitman. In A Wrinkle in Time, as Charles Wallace, my brain was literally invaded by an evil alien. I played in another movie, a homeless teen living in an abandoned barn. And as an actor, your job is to understand these characters, empathize with them, and learn to appreciate their struggles, their dreams, even their identities. And much like attorneys don't always get to pick their clients, it's like with actors, you don't get to pick your character. When when a lot of you enter legal practice, you're going to have to deal with matters that are far removed from your life experience, completely unfamiliar to you. Well, as an attorney at the United States Congress, when you're drafting a bill or you're reviewing legislation even, you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of every person that bill might affect. Not just the people like yourself, but also that retiree in Florida or a coal miner in West Virginia. In private practice even, I practice in Hong Kong. I might not personally be a tech startup trying to break into the Chinese market, but I've learned to view deals through their lens and then act accordingly. Actors' #1 job is to understand everything about their character, and at the end of the day, it's also an attorney's job to understand everything about their client. All right, I think my time's running short here, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I'd like to leave with a few words of advice for everyone here, whether you're an actor or not, whatever you are. It's important to work hard, of course. You got to give everything you do your all. But it's also important to take the time to give back, particularly to the next generation. So please, each and every one of you, when you get home tonight, just take a moment, look deep into your heart, and go online and buy a copy of The Ring. No, I'm sorry, I had to do it. Contractually obligated to do the plug. No, in all seriousness though, take a moment and think about what makes your life story unique. And then take whatever that uniqueness might be. We each have something. And turn it into something meaningful. I can't tell you how many times I've had parents of current child actors, reach out to me and say, David, how can I make sure my kid follows your path of education, of a career, instead of going down that all too common path of drugs and destruction? And I cannot tell you how much I love having those conversations. They are so rewarding. Because as I hope I've helped laid out today, being a child star really can lay a foundation for so many valuable life skills. And it is truly a tragedy that more people aren't able to embrace those opportunities. All right, one final thing for all the 1Ls here. I'll leave you with a quote from my favorite Greek philosopher, YOLO. Okay, that was Drake. But the point stands. You only live this life once. You only got one shot at it. So you go out, please, and live it for all it has. You have so many opportunities here at HLS. Seize each and every one of them you can fit into your day. They are such phenomenal opportunities you have here. It doesn't matter how much talent you bring to the table. It doesn't even matter how much raw potential you have. If you don't go out there and share it with the world, share it with your community, it doesn't matter much. Thank you.
So thank you, David, for your honesty and also for your very timely call for empathy. We have some time for discussion, so maybe I would like to get things started by asking each of you, maybe, is there something that surprised you that one of the others said?
I was actually surprised that that David Otunga, who actually is a friend of mine from law school, we were contemporaries, that he actually told his the partners at his firm exactly what he was going to do. That takes a lot of gumption and is really inspiring. I think that, but it speaks to, David mentioned intentionality and the universe, really, and I believe God showing up and showing out. I mean, when you step out on faith, God will make up the difference. I love that. So.
Oh, I still got one. Thank you. No, I think that's awesome. Yeah, also, I was shocked here. David was in college at 13. Trying to think back, what was I doing when I was 13? I was hanging out at the roller skating rink trying to meet girls and stuff. This guy was starting his life. Yeah, no, but I really enjoyed both stories, and I think that what this shows is a perfect example of just how talented the people are who come from Harvard Law School, and multi-talented. That's the big thing, and just well-rounded and very unique. I can easily say that. I think that was the coolest thing about my time here at HLS was just everybody I met, I was like, wow, I've never met somebody like that before. And then, there's a handful of people, more than a handful of people, I've never met somebody like that since. So there's a lot of individuals here, and individuality is something that's very important, and I think will carry you a long way. And like I was saying, with intention and you putting it out, like Voltaire said, you set it up, God will do it. And that's something that I didn't learn until I was older, and also about just being true to myself. I mean, it took me a while, but I realized like I'm different, but I embrace it. I'm a gimmick. That's wrestling talk here now, but I mean, who else is going to show up at Harvard Law School in a suit with no sleeves, have no problem walking around flexing and looking at himself? Yep, zoom in. Get the peak. The peak is split like Arnold's. Wait for it. Brachialis. You know what I mean? All right, anyway. Next.
Well, I got to say, what I find most surprising here today is the fact that you keep your Harvard Law diploma above the WWE SmackDown. Like, if I ever have the amazing opportunity to win to SmackDown, apologies, Professor, it's going above my diploma.
We can be tag team partners, don't worry. I'll
look
do all the
forward
work.
to it.
So let me ask another question, a little more serious, because this is something that actually professors face too. We don't talk about it much, but it's rejection. So I want you to talk a little bit about how you've experienced rejection and, you know, what you did to keep moving.
Well, so I'll jump in. One of the things that I didn't mention in my introductory remarks was that when I met Denzel Washington for the first time, so if you recall, I had submitted an audition tape, so I didn't have to go through, you know, the intense emotions of actually being in the room with him when I actually did my audition. But when I finally met him, I'd already been cast. But he told me, he said, look, Voltaire, and he's from New York, he has a New York accent. You know, when I saw your background, that you went to Morehouse College and Harvard Law School, I had to give you a shot. And I was like, wow. So what I try to do is remember that moment, you know? Like, you face a lot of rejection in life, but also as an actor, you get told no a lot. And you can start to internalize that and believe that that is who you are. And what I try to do is remind myself that, look, actually, here's someone who's at literally the pinnacle of success. I mean, he's someone who is my favorite actor, who I look up to, admire, and he saw in me something that potentially I didn't even see in myself. I had this idea that I would be in his film, but he saw it, and he cast me. And so I try to remember those moments, the moments of success, because in those moments, I think that, you know, like we were talking about before, like the universe sort of responding, God showing you, yes, you are meant to be here. You know, you have to reach back and remember those moments and help those to build you up. And I reach to family and friends also. I have a great, supportive, and amazing wife and loving son, and great parents who've always been supportive, and brother and sister. So I try to reach to family too.
I'll jump in. The worst part about being an actor is rejection, because your agents will send you on auditions, and hopefully you have good agents and they're sending you stuff that you're right for, but there's plenty of times the description will be 20 to 40, African American. That's it. Oh, okay. And then I show up and like, well, his muscles are too big or whatever. Anyway, and it'll be a role and I don't even think I'm right for it. But you get that rejection and it's just having to deal with it. Another thing is you have to believe in yourself. And every role I go for, I believe it's mine and I'm the best choice for it. And then if I'm rejected and they cast somebody else, I'm like, why? Well, they screwed that up because it should have been me. This movie's going to be nothing. It's not going to do anything. That was the biggest mistake they ever made. And then everybody's like, why do you take it so seriously? I was like, why don't you? Like, I'm passionate about this. And if I wasn't passionate about this, I should be doing something else. So that's the thing that goes with it. And I think that's what makes a good actor, too, is being very passionate and being in touch with your emotions, because when you book the role, it's great. When you don't get it, if you're not disappointed, I don't think you're fully invested in it, to be honest. And rejection makes you stronger, and, you know, it's like trial and error. You know, you think about what you did or what you could improve on. That's the only thing, though, is they don't really give you feedback often. So it could be you're taller than, you know, the person you'd be having scenes with, or you're shorter, and so they don't go with you. But then in your mind, you go crazy. You be like, well, what? I wasn't good, or, you know, what was it? My acting was off. Can't do that. You just have to believe in yourself.
I think those were, both of you guys put that very well. I mean, Hollywood is like having EIP every single day. You know, it's just, you gotta put yourself out there. You cannot rest on your laurels. You always have to be pushing for the next opportunity. You know, I've picked a lot of careers, entertainment and legislation, you know, where 97% of things fall on their face and 3% move forward, right? And you just have to, every time something doesn't work out, you have to learn from that. I mean, if something doesn't work out for whatever reason and you don't learn from it, then you truly have failed. If you learn from it and it makes you able to do something better next time, then you haven't really lost out on something. You've gained something from the process. So that's the way I like to approach any roadblocks you face.
So how about this? Do you have questions for each other?
Well, I'll say I have a flight to catch, so I'm going to Vegas for the Mr. Olympia contest. But I'm going to say this. Just listening to you guys, I was just thinking, I was like, there's got to be some kind of project we could do together, like a film, a movie. And I think, we just need to find some place with deep pockets to fund it. I'm thinking like a really prestigious law school, I think that'd be cool. Like we could make a new, I'm thinking Legally Black maybe.
That might work.
I don't know. You'd be down for it, right? Yeah, there you go.
You should see my rapping skills, David.
You know what? I would love to. I think that's how we should open the film. Voltaire, you write it.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'll do it.
So I can add my pitch. Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm laughing, but I'm very serious. LBVS.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Hashtag.
Professors, I know typically academic journal articles don't get turned into movies, but any exceptions we can make here?
Well, I did write a piece about engagement rings. There's some inherent interest there, I would say. Some story about a big engagement ring fight. But actually, my pitch to you is father and a daughter become professors at the same law school. One's conservative, one's liberal. They move in together. Shenanigans ensue. Can you see it?
Is this a autobiography by chance?
Not entirely.
Sounds like a lot of drama there, for sure, and comedy too.
What's your dream role?
That's hard to say, because I have many dream roles, but I think I couldn't even say what it is specifically, but it would be something that allowed me to impact everybody who watched the film, and that was timeless. That would go down in history as a classic. Like, wow, like I really felt something from his performance, not only just his performance, but from the film in itself. It stood for something. It wasn't just a blockbuster action movie, he's showing off his muscles and getting paid a ton of money. That would be great, but I mean, I wanted to have meaning behind it too.
Mine, I'd say, in sort of the context of just like what we do, would be able just to support myself doing this, like as a creative, and so someone who's writing, acting, producing, and not having to still do contract attorney work or lawyering, and so relatively young still. I think that it can happen, and I know that it will. So staying focused on that.
One of the things that really struck me when I was growing up acting is, I'd do a role and I'd be like, this is my dream role. I love it. This is the best job I could have imagined. I'll never get something this great again. And then 6 months later, I'd be saying the same thing about something else. One of those amazing things about acting is you get to mix it up so much. You get to step into so many different pairs of shoes. And I think a lot of roles lend themselves to being dream roles if you just embrace it fully and study that character as much as you can. And I mean, a guy like me, getting to play a bad guy or a sports star for that matter. I mean, you don't get to do that stuff in real life. And that's one of the phenomenal things about acting. You get to be anything as long as you get the job. And so I think many, many parts take the prize.
Mm-hmm. So those are actually all fantastic answers. Now I want to ask a question that might be somewhat more lighthearted, which is, so you have heavy involvement in social justice. David Dorfman's worked in various legislative roles. You're a reality TV star. Is politics in your future?
So I'll say I've never actually considered political life as a career or it's never been an aspiration. I mean, in school I ran for like class president and was class president even here at Harvard Law School. but no, I've never had that interest. But I mean, who knows what the future holds? I like to say that sometimes like the time chooses you is what I've heard often, and so you know, I mean, who knows, right? Like the direction that our country is headed now is very disturbing, I'll say. In some respects, I still love our country, but I mean, just like what what we're seeing a lot from our leader, and so you know, who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, kind of like Voltaire said, I've never really had those aspirations, but it's interesting, like, you know, recently, like, a lot of people have been bringing that up to me, like, been really serious about it. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll take an interest in that, you know, think about it. Like, yeah, you certainly have the qualifications for it, but my response is, well, they'll let anybody be president nowadays.
So yes, Professor, I work on Capitol Hill. I've also practiced in Hong Kong doing entertainment and tech work. And I think, you know, it's great to have all these very fascinating opportunities, but when I really think about what I want to do with my life, I don't think I really fully realized it until today. I'm going to take you up on that wrestling partnership, David.
Done. Let's do it.
All right. Now, here's a question. Is that a binding contract? Go back to your first year.
Well, I have to think about the consideration there.
Fair enough. So we are close to running out of time. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to share any last words of wisdom about the intersection between the art world and the legal world.
I'll say this, because we didn't touch on this, and I forgot, but I really have no need for a manager because I read all my own contracts and negotiate them. And, well, you know, you have to have the buffer, so he has to be the bad guy. I literally type the emails and send them to him to send off. And, yeah, it's pretty cool. But the thing that I like is people are nervous when they give me a contract, or, you know, they're like, oh, you're going to read this, aren't you? Well, what do you think? Of course. So it's pretty cool just having that extra tool in my pocket.
I would just say they sound so far removed from one another. I mean, HLS in the arts, and you go, what? HLS in the what? But there really is so much that the arts and acting in particular have in common with the law. And, you know, back in law school, I'm sure some people thought, oh, people doing parody or people, you know, spending time on the arts, why aren't they, you know, focusing exclusively on, you know, more traditional legal matters? And obviously that's incredibly important here, but the arts is a skill set which has so much applicability to whatever you do. I mean, just the ability to speak confidently, or the ability to get a point across, or the ability to empathize. These are all things that come from being an actor, and I'd really just encourage everyone here to not say that I'm not going to continue pursuing my passions in the arts just because it doesn't seem like something that has direct legal applicability.
So when I gave the commencement speech here at HLS, the theme was live your dream. And my encouraging and parting words would be to do just that. I mean, so all of us had to take, like David was saying, that moment where you step out on faith and you jump, that moment. I'd say find out what that is for you and do that. And then the other thing is I'd say don't let this die. This has been a phenomenal weekend. Like, let's figure out, you know, as a community, and those of you who are on campus specifically, like how to keep this going, because this is a great thing for students who are here, for alumni even who've come back to be rejuvenated and inspired by people who are in the arts. Like, let's continue this. Let's keep it going. And it's phenomenal that the school has invested in this weekend in this way. Can't wait to see what happens with HLS in the world and HLS in the community. But thanks so much. It's been a great opportunity.
You know what? I just want to jump in there, too. Like, when I heard about this, I thought this was such a cool idea. And I really wish they'd had this when I was here and really, like, you know, just blasted it and promoted it everywhere. There's a bunch of empty tables. But I feel like if people knew what was going on, there would be a ton of people out here. It would be packed because there's so many people who are interested in the arts or who are here in law school but have other passions, other dreams. I always thought that was interesting is a lot of my classmates didn't even become lawyers. They're into something else. But I think this is a really cool idea, and I agree with Voltaire. I think that, you know, this shouldn't be the one and only. This should be the first of many and have it just grow bigger and bigger every year.
I'll third that. I mean, I was here a bit more recently, and when there were opportunities to, step, God forbid, down to the other side of the river and hear some of the cool stuff going down there. I mean, it's great that we're bringing some of the arts here to campus, and it would be fantastic if that continues going forward as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your talents with us. And I think maybe next time a little tent to keep off the sun. If September is going to be this bad, we can't keep people fleeing into the shadows. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.